Hey there guys, I'm back again, and today I'm going to be looking at my favourite army and the thing that I love to talk about most of all, Dwarfs. Warhammer Dwarfs, to be exact. And yeah, let's just get in there and have a look through this book, and I'll sort of tell you a little bit about what I think about them. As you can see, it's quite an old rulebook nowadays. It's definitely not hardback. It's about as old as Wood Elves and Bretonnians, which is why they're due for an update, apparently soon. So, yeah, you've got a little bit of the history here about the Dwarves. They've always had a fantastic history. I read the Dwarves Omnibus by Gav Thorpe and Nick Kim, which is a fantastic book if you're at all interested in dwarves. It has everything in there from grudge lore at the back, which tells you about how their holds are made. It has a little bit about their grudge book itself. Looks into there's 3 great stories and a smaller one as well in there. Just fantastic, really. So, I mean, here you can see some more dwarf art here. Fantastic dwarf art. I mean, they might not have any knees, but they're still bloody awesome. Obviously, Warhammer Dwarves are a little bit like every other dwarf race that you see in a fantasy game, in that they've descended into darkness and that their forces are spread thin, even though they are strong and old and as defiant as the mountains. But yes, they're definitely a dying race. Here's some of the cool stuff here. We've got the Ancestral Grudge, which means that they hate all orcs and goblins, snotlings, goblins, black orcs, hobgoblins, noblars, any green skin. They're resolute, but that doesn't matter anymore, and they're relentless, which is always good. It means they can march even if there's someone in the way. The dwarf handgun is amazing. I have 20 of these thunderers firing their guns at the enemy. It's been known to reduce a 30-man unit of Black Orcs to around 15, so that's how powerful these things are and how good dwarf thunderers are. Bromwell armor, amazing, 4+ armor save. Dwarf lords, if you don't take a lord, I don't know what's wrong with you. The Anvil of Demon, I've really tried that out before, but it's quite good. I quite like some of the runes on there. I might be tempted to try it out if I can sort of make my own Anvil of Doom. I'm quite a fan of the models actually as well that come with that. The Forge Guard, they're quite cool. Dwarf Warriors, resolute as anything. Toughness 4, fantastic. Toughness 4 and Weapon Skill 4, that's absolutely brilliant. It means they're outclassing most troops out there, and they wear heavy armour and they have a shield as well, so it's great. I've never really looked into upgrading things for the Longbeards. It's not been too bad in the past, but I've never had the need to upgrade a unit. Maybe I should try that out. Slayers, fantastic as they are, great artwork, fantastic idea, but mostly useless in this new edition. Unless you can get a character in there that gives them a banner which gives them a 5+4 save against shooting attacks, they're not going to get across the board into the enemy. I suppose in a way that means that they've done their job and they've distracted all the firepower, but yeah, for a big points cost, do you really want to be doing that? Basically what they need in the next edition of their rulebook is to have magical tattoos, which means that they are warded against shooting attacks. Choth orcs get them, savage orcs get them. Why do savage orcs get them and slayers don't? Like, what's wrong with runic tattoos on their bodies? So, Quarrelers and Thunderers. I always enjoy making Quarrelers and stuff into Rangers. They're always cool. Thunderers, amazing. Who doesn't want to be carrying around a dwarf handgun? As I've said before, reduced enemies to smithereens. Miners, I've tried them a few times. They're not too bad. I've got a full unit of 20 of them now, and I'm planning to use them in the next battle, I think. Ironbreakers are phenomenally good. They will take any amount of punishment and they will last to the end of the game. I've never had my unit of Ironbreakers ever reduced to nil. There's always been at least one of them left at the end. There's always been the champion left at the end, right? That's how good these guys are. They are utter tanks on the battlefield. Engineers, always useful. They help you with your artillery. Flame cannons, not so good nowadays. Organ guns, I like them, but they can't have runes, and I think they're a little bit pernickety. Like it takes into 24 inches before you can actually fire the thing, and by that point your enemy's pretty close anyway, especially in the new rules. I'd much rather take cannons and grudge throwers. Grudge throwers fantastic for wiping out smaller units. Cannons, great for sniping out characters. One of my friends was playing me in one of our first games of a tournament, and I shot a cannon into his unit of orcs, hit his general right in the face. He failed both the saves that had been put on him and killed him outright. Admittedly, that was more bad luck on his part, but I like to think that it was the runes on the cannonball that did it. So, yeah. Gyrocopters, I've not really looked at them, but they could be quite an interesting idea, especially for sort of like a harrying unit to stop them marching and things like that. Dwarf runes. The best thing about dwarves is their runes. Some fantastic runes out here. Rune of Cleaving is amazing. Great, +1 strength. Use it to take on ogres. Rune of Fury, +1 attack. You've got the Rune of Striking, +1 weapon skill. Rune of Speed, +1 initiative. Rune of Fire, great if you're hunting down monsters, especially trolls. The Rune of Might's an interesting one. Multiples rune have no effect. The wielder's strength is doubled against any enemy with toughness 5 or more. So it means that you're effectively... You don't have to take the Rune of Cleaving. You could just take the Rune of Might, and you're like, this is badass. Admittedly, you don't get against weaker enemies, but it means that your guy's like a proper monster hunter now. The Master Rune of Gromril, great one to take. Fantastic. I've never really looked at the Rune of Fortitude, but the Master Rune of Gromril is amazing. What else have we got? The Master Rune of Grudges. This is the one that I think is good for adding to your Slayers. Any friendly dwarf unit within 6 inches of standard with this rune gets a 5+ ward save against shooting attacks and any spell defined as a magic missile. It basically means that they're safe from all those horrible bows that the elves get. It's horrible. That's a good one. There's another one here. Here we go. Where is it? The Rune of Determination. I like this one. The Rune of Determination allows you to take a break test on a single d6 rather than 2. So it's great for that really key moment when something's in the attack. Spell Eater Rune is fantastic. Master Rune of Spell Binding, fantastic. Rune of Spell Breaking, fantastic. And I always take the Rune of Forging. Allows you to reroll the artillery dice. Great stuff. Obviously all of this stuff is pretty much ridiculous now. There's no need to look at any of this. Then we get to the stats and everything here. All their points cost. I've been playing at 2,400 for most of these campaigns, which is quite cool. I always enjoy playing that level of game, sort of tournament level. I could probably stretch my army to about 3,000 points now, which is quite cool. I quite like the idea that I've got that many dwarves. Oh god. The amount of times I've painted beards, it's unimaginable. Yep. And then we've got the special characters. Thorgrim Grudgebearer. Awesome guy. Although he's a bit of a pointless thing at 780. He's playing a slightly larger game to get him. Thoric Ironbrow. Not too bad. Again, you're probably off better just taking a normal anvil. Joseph Bugman. Now he's an interesting one because I quite like this guy because he's a low points cost. He's only 155, and you can put him in with a unit of your rangers, which is always great. And they've got Joseph Bugman in him who can heal them with the Bugman's Tankard. Now, how awesome is that? I even made a miniature for this guy because I loved him so much. And then we have all the nice models. Now, some would say that the dwarf range is a little bit ancient now. I mean, when you look at this, that's a good model because I mean it's sort of stood the test of time. It's quite an old one now. This Lord, fantastic model. I have that one. I don't like this. I mean, I know he's sort of stamping a room, but it's ridiculous. I like all the engineers, slayers. That's one I've got there. Great model. I've got one of them as well, but I've sort of changed this hand to be holding an orc skull, well, a little head covered in blood, just sort of like a warning to my enemies. The dwarf kits are alright. They're a bit simplistic, but they're fine to paint. I mean, they don't take a long time to paint at all, especially with the method I've got, which involves a lot of dry brushing. Ironbreaker models, still good, just wish they weren't in metal. Hammerer models, far too static. New miner models, they're not them anymore obviously. New miner models are great, although I do quite like those. I like those old ones. They've got a nice style to them. Slayer models, great, wish they weren't in metal. Go and buy the Avatars of War ones, not the Games Workshop ones, even though we'd better use them in store, but oh well. New artillery, great. I like that it's made out of stone and metal, because why on earth would a dwarf make anything out of wood when he can make it out of metal? Simple, really. Great models all around. There's a sample army there. But yeah, I mean, I think dwarves are a good starter army for someone who's going into fantasy. They're reliable, they're not going to run away, they're tough, they're strong, they have access to runes which are amazing, their artillery is great. You can sort of skip out the magic phase and just deal on dispelling, which means that you don't have to get into any complicated magical discussions or looking at all the laws. I mean, magic is great in the new edition, but do you want to be getting into that when you're starting the game? Potentially no. Great figures, great history. You get to shout like a dwarf, you get to drink beer while you're gaming and no one can say otherwise. And yeah, just pretty much a great army. I've really enjoyed playing with them, and I was so pleased to have picked up the Battle of Skull Pass box before it was sort of went out of print, really. But yeah, fantastic army. And I think you might have seen a video of mine before. I looked through my army, of course. It's expanded considerably since then, which means I might do another video about that. But yeah, until then, that was my quick look at the Dwarves book, my book look, as I've labelled them. Pick them up, play as them. Would I be too daring as to say that they're the Space Marines of the Warhammer universe? I'm sure one of you correct me below, and you'll probably say it was Chaos Forest, but yeah. Alright guys, see you soon.